Good morning and welcome to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I am located at 1563 Main Street in beautiful Peckville, Pennsylvania, and I am right here with you each and every Sunday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. on Bigfoot Country to bring you, the landowner, the information you need regarding natural gas development here in Pennsylvania. And of course, and as always, I, Doug Clark, the Clark Law Firm, does not, has not, ever, and will never represent gas or pipeline companies. I represent the Pennsylvania royalty owner, landowner for such items as, legal speak, including but not limited to, oil and gas lease negotiations, oil and gas lease deductions, royalty payments, pipeline, water line agreements, unitization issues, breaches of your leases, representation and consultation, review and consultation for lease amendments, ratifications, pipeline agreement amendments, ratifications, surface use agreements, well pad agreements, meter site agreements, compressor station agreements, storage agreements, you name it. Any and all representation related to oil and gas or involving oil and gas development here in Pennsylvania, give us a call, see if we can help you. 570-307-0702. And I have to keep stressing, regardless of the location of your property, regardless of the acreage of your property, give me a call and see if I can help. Again, I'm going to talk some today, as I always talk, about the review and consultation services, but just as a quick example, I had a client right over 2 acres in southwestern Pennsylvania, and we were able to, with very little effort, increase that offer by $1,000 per acre from what was originally offered, and also add some additional terms and add some protections. So I have represented clients literally that have less than a half an acre. I've represented clients that have well over 5,000 acres. So give us a call and see if we can help. And as I always say, if I can't help you, the first thing that you're going to hear from me is, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to help you. We're not here, and I'm not here to take somebody's money that I can't help. So give a call and find out, can we help you? And I'm going to talk about a couple examples today of ways in which client called, did a review and consultation, then we had subsequent negotiations, which led to very, very nice benefits and significant benefits to the client. And don't worry, this isn't a war story show. I'm not going to sit here and tell war stories. We're going to tell some history of some negotiations and discussions, but we're also going to provide education about royalty language and many other things. So I'm excited about today's show. Now, I have to say before I get into it, apparently I found out recently, actually from a client, that I guess you're not supposed to double up on your blood pressure pills. And apparently I guess medically maybe that doesn't work. I say sometimes I get fired up, or I know I'm going to be fired up during the show, so I take an extra blood pressure pill. But apparently you're not supposed to do that. So as always, remember, the show is never specific advice. I certainly am not a doctor. And I have not taken an extra blood pressure pill today, but who knows? I still may get worked up in the process. But I just thought that was funny because a regular listener said, hey, I don't think you're supposed to do that. So no worries, won't be doing that. And we're just going to bring you the information, get a little excited, but I get excited because, and this is true, and this is my corny alert, I genuinely love to help people. And I love to have the opportunity to help people. And if you listen to the show, you know that I feel so fortunate, and I feel, quite frankly, blessed to represent so many people like my parents, like my father, Alan Clark, who worked at Allegheny Ludlam Steel Mill from the time he was 18 until the time he retired, was simultaneously working on the family farm. And my grandfather before him, Laird Clark, same thing, worked at Allegheny Ludlam Steel Mill from the time he was a young man through his retirement and then went on to the farm. So this is such an incredible gift for me, for the two men who formed me and shaped me in so many ways in my life, to be able to represent people just like them. So it is a gift. It is an unbelievable gift to represent people, to sit across the table from people that remind me so much of my parents, my father, my grandfather, and the neighbors that I grew up around. All the people that I grew up around on Airport Road, Dime Road, Armstrong County, Parks Township. It is a gift. So I look at it that way, and I love what I do. So regardless of where you are located, the person who I said I just represented with the 2 acres, that property is in southwestern Pennsylvania, and the client, I believe, is in their 80s. So don't be fearful. Don't have any hesitation to put the pen down, as I always say, but pick up the phone and give us a call and learn about the different services, learn about reviews and consultations, because they generally take 1 to 2 hours beginning to end, and you now understand everything, you know your leverage, and you can make informed decisions by somebody who's doing this every single day, and doing it with the sole motivation to help you, to do the best we can for you. And I love doing it. It's a gift to do it, and I want to hear from everyone I can. I want to help every person that we can. Give us a call, 570-307-0702. And literally, if you don't like what you hear, don't go further. But we have great client feedback. Go to the websites, pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com, pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. First, go there and learn. General information, again, never specific advice, but go and learn. But then go through the testimonials. Go through the testimonials and see what kind of feedback we get from the clients. And I say this because I know my parents, I know the people I grew up around, and I know the hesitation that people have to talk to an attorney. And sometimes, people may think, maybe it's true, that certain attorneys, and I'm not saying this is true, but maybe, see people as dollar signs. And I'm going to tell you, never in my entire life have I ever done that. So I want to really encourage people that, I think we provide a different type of brand of representation, and certainly bringing all of the knowledge and experience I have from dealing with these issues every day. So I'm going to give you a break on this, but I just want anyone who's thinking, should I call? I don't know. Do I need a lawyer? Call. Have an intake done here at the office, and then see if you want to go forward. If you want to go forward, feel free to start with a review and consultation. And then that's all you may need. Or you may say, hey, I'd like to have some more representation and negotiate. But we go through this, and whatever it is, if you need more help and you want to have more help, hey, great, I'd love to help you. If we do a review and consultation and you don't need any more help, then that's okay too. That's great, because now you know what you need to know and you have your questions answered by someone who's working for you. Are you getting taken advantage of? Is the lease or pipeline agreement or other agreement at market rate? What leverage do you have? What if you don't agree to it? All of those questions need to be answered by somebody working for you, not a landman who's working for the company, not you, the landowner. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Again, call us up. Reviews, consultations, and all other natural gas representation regardless of your location. 570-307-0702. 570-307-0702. And keep listening each and every week to All Things Marcellus on this station at this time. I've been doing the show since 2010, and we're not stopping. Okay, I'm going to jump into it. So, first thing I want to talk about today, I talk a lot about these because they are so important, and I'm telling you this is the most important thing that I see going forward, are lease amendments, modifications, and ratifications. I'm going to talk about a little bit different here in the first part of the show. So here's the scenario. Western Pennsylvania client, Westmoreland County, neighboring county to where I grew up. Person calls, learns about reviews, consultations. We have a review and consultation. Send me the documents. I study them all. We get on the phone and we talk about what they need to know. And my head, as I read these documents, I get a small smile on my face because I'm so glad that this person contacted me, because I can see exactly what is happening. And in this particular case, and you'll find this all across Western Pennsylvania. This isn't something that was, a one-time occurrence. I run into this. So when I see it, I'm sure it's happening all the time that I don't see it. So here's the scenario. Landowner has a lease dating back several decades, and they have a conventional well, like a shallow, straight well, we're called conventional wells on the property, and they haven't received royalties for decades, and they haven't received shut-in payments or any type of payment. But all of a sudden, they get a letter in the mail from the company that holds says that they hold this old lease, which there's still a well there. And it says, hey, we'll offer you a certain amount of money, and we've enclosed herein with this letter an amendment, modification, and ratification of your existing, what they say is existing lease. So landowner says, well, I've heard this Doug Clark guy on the radio. Let me check this thing out. So calls the office, sends it in. I look at this and I say, oh my heavens, this is great. I'm so glad you provided me this information. So I determined that the person hasn't been paid a shut-in payment in, again, over 2 decades in this case. And so I say, here's what's probably going on. And I can tell this based upon, again, experience. So here's the deal. You have an existing well from a company that generally, it's a smaller company that drills these straight down vertical wells and just produces, they have much less production than you get from these horizontal deeper wells. So I can tell something's going on, and almost certainly what is happening is the company with this existing vertical well who hasn't paid has clearly breached this lease. And in fact, in my opinion, this lease has actually terminated. There is no valid lease. There's no way that they can legitimately attempt to hold on to this lease, and they need to end this lease, release it, and surrender it. But this company who owns this existing lease at the present time and the well on the property, well, they don't want to do that because I can suspect that they are looking to assign or transfer this old lease to another company to drill horizontal wells in the Marcellus or Utica formations. So this first company, again, has a straight vertical well. They have not paid and they've not met their lease requirements, but they never surrendered or released the existing lease that's decades old. Now there's an opportunity, I suspect, for them to assign, usually these companies will assign the deeper rights, Marcellus and below, to an actual horizontal drilling company. And in exchange of that assignment, the first company is typically going to get a cash payment from the deep well driller of some kind, maybe a per acre price, but they're also and almost certainly going to get what's called an overriding royalty interest. And an overriding royalty interest means this, and this would be in this particular case as well. The existing lease was at 12.5% royalty. So when they assign the deep rights under this lease to a big company who's going to drill horizontal wells, they keep to themselves, usually in a case like this, about 5 or 5.5% of what's called an overriding royalty interest. And what that means is this. The first company with just the vertical well will assign the rights to the bigger company to drill deep horizontal wells, And when royalties are produced from the horizontal wells, you as the landowner get 12.5% royalty because that was what is in your lease. But the first company who assigned your deep rights to the second big company, they're going to get, let's say, 5.5% royalty for doing nothing but assigning it. Pretty good deal, right? Yeah, it's a great deal. It's a great deal for that first company. Well, the first company doesn't want you to know any of these things. So the first company sends an amendment, modification, and ratification to get you to agree that the old lease that you haven't received royalty or shut-in payments in a long time, many, many years, is still valid, that it hasn't been breached. That is the ratification part of it. We ratify this lease to say it is a valid lease as of today. And so if you sign that document, then the first company that has the shallow well, they have you. You've revived this dead lease. And then they can assign that lease to the second company who's now going to drill deep. You'll get your 12.5% royalty. You won't get any bonus. You won't get any increased royalty. You won't be able to negotiate royalty calculation language, but you'll get your 12.5%. But the company with the shallow well is going to get 5.5% royalty. And they're probably going to get a cash payment for transferring that lease to the second company. So the crime here, if you will, it's not really a crime, but the problem is that you, the landowner, actually had a lease that is expired. And so if you realize that, you can have that lease terminated and then enter into a new lease where you would be entitled, most likely, you would get a per acre bonus. And then also you could negotiate for a higher royalty percentage and potentially a new royalty calculation method. And by the way, in this particular case, I later learned that the first company, when they were assigning the rights to the second company, their royalties will say at 5.5%. Their royalties were going to be paid without deductions. Unfortunately, the landowner with the 12.5% royalty in the old lease, they're going to have full deductions. So, a smart landowner says, hey, I got this paperwork. It is a contract that the gas company wants me to sign. I am not going to simply sign. I'm going to put the pen down, I'm going to pick up the telephone, and I'm going to call Doug Clark. And I'm going to have a review and consultation and find out what's going on here. What don't I know that I should know? Do I have the ability to contest this? Should I sign this? Is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? So thankfully, the person calls, sets up a review and consultation. Again, I've seen this scenario several times. So I can tell that most likely this is what's occurring. And I'll just say that as I got more involved, it is exactly what is occurring. So I'm going to tell you, we're up against this first break. When I come back, I'm going to explain the review and consultation, and then what we did from there, and how this whole situation has changed substantially, and substantially to the benefit of the landowner, because they put the pen down and they picked up the phone. And this isn't a one-time occurrence. And again, the worst thing that could have happened is they had a typically 2-hour review and consultation and had all their questions answered and understand if this is a good deal, bad deal. That's the worst thing that can happen. Or we'll talk about what really did happen, and it's a lot better than the worst thing. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I have not, do not, and will not represent gas and pipeline companies. I hope that's clear. Give us a call, 570-307-0702. Keep listening to All Things Marcellus each and every week at this time on this station. I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Join me each and every week at this time on this station for all things Marcellus. Check out the websites, pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. If you are not going to pipelineattorney.com, if you have a pipeline agreement, why are you not going there? Just go check it out. Whether you ever give us a call or not, I hope you do. But go get some general information, educate yourself, find out about leverage. Pipeline agreements should not, as any agreement, should not just simply be signed. Remember, let's stop signing documents and let's start getting information. Because in most cases that I've been involved in, there is better money out there and there are much better terms out there. And if you're just simply listening to the landman who works for the company, not you, the landowner, I'm telling you, in my opinion, my strongest possible opinion, you're not getting the information you need. You're not. Why would the company, Fortune 500, multi-billion-dollar capital companies, why would they be giving you all the information you need to make sure that you're doing the best you can as far as obtaining the best compensation, limiting the operations as much as you can, protecting yourself and property and children and grandchildren for future generations? That's not their concern, ladies and gentlemen. That is not their concern, but that's our concern. So we need to make sure that we're taking care of it. Okay, let's get back to our situation here. So what do we got? Quick reset for those just joining us. So what we have here is landowner gets a letter in the mail along with a lease amendment, modification, and ratification. Ratification is a scary, scary word. You should not be signing ratifications without getting help. So they get this document in the mail. They've heard the radio show. They call. They learn about a review and consultation. They send me the information. I identify, in this particular case, we have a person who has an old lease, decades old, 20-some years old. And this lease, under this lease, they have not received royalty or shut-in payments for a very, very long time. I can tell that, in my opinion, this lease is terminated, and I feel very strong. It's not like, well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. It's clear based on the language of this lease that it's terminated. But the person gets a letter in the mail along with the lease amendment, modification, and ratification saying that, hey, we want to go ahead and have your deeper rights developed, so we want you to sign this document. Well, the ratification portion of this document, and we're going to offer you a little bit, we're going to offer you some money per acre. So again, these are all clues. You're getting offered money. You need to make sure that you know, is there more money you can obtain? And should you be signing this? But they're offered a payment, a per acre payment, and saying, hey, we want you to sign this document. They call, we do a review and consultation. As I review this in preparation for this call, I'm excited. I'm excited for the client. I'm excited that they called me, that I can give them this information because I can tell this is going to be good for them. So in reviewing it, I say this lease is expired. I can tell in this case that the first company, what they have is just a one single well, vertical well, drilled to a shallow depth. So we'll call it a shallow vertical well. So they're not producing from that well. And so they've lost this lease. But what the company wants to do, this first company, they want to assign the deep rights, the deep drilling rights, think Marcellus and Utica, under the lease to a bigger company, a much larger company, who's going to come in and drill horizontal wells. And why do they want to do that? Well, when they make that assignment, they often get a per acre payment themselves from the bigger company for all the acreage that they assign to the big company. And then they also get what's called an overriding royalty interest. And in this case, the original lease was a 12.5% lease for royalties. And what I often see as an overriding royalty is a 5.5%. So if the lease was 12.5%, the first company assigns it to a second deep drilling company, and the first company, who's doing nothing but assigning this, maintains or receives 5.5% royalty for any deep horizontal well production. What's also just another step is, in this deal, in this case, the first company is going to actually get royalties at, say, it's 5.5% without deductions. Well, the landowner, if this were to occur this way, but we're stopping it, you'll hear in a minute, would only get 12.5% royalty with full deductions. So I've seen this before, and again, this is based on experience. So this is somebody working for you who has experience that can identify what is going on here. And you as a landowner, just it's not going to be something that, unless you're dealing with this all the time, or even an attorney, you're not going to be able to identify what's happening behind the scenes. So I say to my client, what we have here is this scenario where your lease, I am very confident, has terminated. The first company wants to assign your deep rights to another company and in exchange get money and overriding royalty interest. So if your lease is terminated, then we can take action to have your lease what's called released or surrendered, and now you're a free agent. You can go to the second company and negotiate. You can negotiate for a per acre bonus payment. You can negotiate for higher royalty percentage. You can negotiate for more modern day addendum terms, add shut-in limitations, all kinds of things. It's now a blank slate, whatever you can negotiate. So you can negotiate and attempt to improve and probably your current lease. So when, again, the landowner receives this letter and the amendment, modification, and ratification in the mail from the first company, they call. But they also in that letter say, hey, we're going to give you so many hundreds of dollars per acre if you sign this. And so again, remember, I talk all the time about the shiny object. Oh, here, we're going to give you blank amount of money per acre. So here, sign. So they want you. This isn't their first rodeo. They want you to look at this and say, ooh, cash money. Where do I sign? But we know, put the pen down, pick up the phone. We're not signing. We're going to get the information we need. So the person calls, we do a review and consultation. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Join me each and every week at this time on this station for All Things Marcellus. So we do a review and consultation. I explain to the client, hey, here's the deal. So what we're able to do is I communicate with the first company and say, look, we're on to you. We know what you're doing. There is no lease here. And we expect that the reason why you're doing this or requesting this amendment, modification, and ratification is that the big company, the company that's going to do the deep well drilling, they won't take this lease unless you get an amendment and modification and ratification from the landowner. They won't take it because the big company knows that the lease isn't valid. So the only way they'll take assignment of the lease is if the first company gets the landowner to sign a lease ratification saying, hey, this lease is still valid. Because again, the second company knows that this lease is expired. So first company comes to you and says, hey, we want to give you, let's say, we want to give you hundreds of dollars per acre to sign this document. They might even say, we feel bad because this hasn't really produced, so this is our way to be nice. I mean, look, they're not in the business of being nice, guys. They're not in the business of being nice. Look around. Ask around. Look in Tioga at all these shut-in vertical wells. Look at the deduction issues and all the litigation. Are they in the business of just being nice? Are they your partner? Are they your friend? So they say, hey, the first company says, if I can get this guy to sign this lease amendment, modification, and ratification, I can now assign this lease to the big company, and I'll get 5.5% royalty for all royalties and gas produced over the lifetime of this lease. I'm also going to get a cash payment per acre that when I assign this lease to the big company. So think about that. You're the first company. You have a lease that hasn't been surrendered or released at the courthouse. So it's still out there and it's not been terminated. And if you can get the person to sign this ratification to bring them back alive, this first lease, you can assign that lease to a big company, and you will get 5.5% royalty for all gas produced from this lease over the lifetime of the lease, and you'll get that 5.5% royalty without deductions, and you also get a cash payment for each acre that you assign to the big company. So can you see the motivation that the first company has to get the landowner to sign the lease amendment, modification, and ratification? If the landowner signs the ratification and brings the lease back alive, the second company will take assignment and pay the first company 5.5% royalty over the lifetime of the lease and a cash payment. Tell me tell me how motivated is that first company to get you to sign this ratification. If you don't sign it and you force them, you realize that your lease is ended and you force them to release your lease, you can go negotiate directly with the second company. If you don't sign it, the first company's not going to get anything. So they send the ratification and modification of the lease. They offer some cash to take your mind off of what's really going on here, and they hope you sign it. Then they may lean on you, try to talk to you, all these different things, calling all the time. Why? Because that's a lot of money they stand to make. A lot of money. It's either no money or a lot of money. So heck yeah, they want you to sign that ratification. And heck yeah, they're going to try. And heck yeah, they're going to come have breakfast with you, take you to lunch, talk to you, do everything they can. They'll talk to you as much as you'll talk to them until you sign the document. Then they're done. They just need you to sign it. So you need to identify that. So what do? Well, we identify that that's the scenario, and we say, now, let's formulate a plan of action, and let's talk about how we address this. And thankfully you called, because if you just signed, you would get only what was originally offered, and you wouldn't increase your royalty percentage, you wouldn't have any better language or better addendum terms, and you would potentially miss out on very substantial benefits. We're up against here the second break. When we get back, I'm going to tell you we formulated our plan of action. We're going to talk about that and what we did and what the results were. And remember, this all started with a review and consultation, a commitment for you as a client, landowner, of typically 1 to 2 hours. And the final result we'll talk about here as we go forward. But you're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, I have not, do not, and I will not ever represent gas or pipeline companies. Never have, never will. Give us a call, 570-307-0702. Any and all oil and gas representation. We're talking amendments, ratifications today, but all representation, give us a call. It's what I do. See if we can help you. Regardless of location, size of property, call. And if we can't help you, you just spent time calling. But I want to help everyone we can. 570-307-0702. And keep listening to All Things Marcellus at this time on this station each and every week. I'll be right back after this incredibly important message. So stay tuned. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Give us a call. Learn about the representation. Again, oil and gas lease, negotiations, pipeline agreements, unitization, royalty deduction, surface use agreements, unitization issues, breach of contracts. Give us a call. Doing more estate planning with clients who are in oil and gas areas. Give us a call. Buying, selling real or royalty rights. Give us a call. You don't want to do it if you don't know what you're doing and why you're doing it. 570-307-0702. Let me also say, multi-unit wells, cross-unit wells. If you are presented with that type of agreement, multi-unit well consent, I'm telling you, give us a call, do a review and consultation, 570-307-0702. Don't miss out. Don't get your information solely from the landman who's working for the company. Get the information from someone working for you, whose whole goal is to assist you, not assist the company. Okay, so we'll get back to it. So very quickly, we have first company is going to try to get you to sign this ratification and amendment, and they're offering you so many dollars per acre to do it. Client calls, do the review and consultation, we decipher what's going on, and we say, hey, this lease is terminated. So we say, okay, you have a couple options. We can demand release of this existing oil and gas lease, and then react to whatever that response is, and we think we're going to get it released. And then if it's released, you can negotiate or begin negotiations with the second deep drilling company to see if you can do a better lease, a lease with a new per acre bonus, new royalty percentage, and a new addendum. Remember, this old lease is a bad lease. It's decades old. So we also, though, the first company, we know that the first company, in our opinion, has no valid lease. So they are very, very motivated. If they want to make 5.5 in my example, royalty, an overriding royalty interest from any future wells. Because again, if your lease, if they get you to sign the ratification, they're going to assign it to the deep driller, and they, as the first company, are going to get 5.5% royalty. You're going to get 12.5%. So in this scenario, there are potentially two players involved. Because the first company stands to gain so much and lose everything, you may be able to negotiate with them to improve the terms of the amendment, modification, and ratification that they're offering you. So in this case, I establish, so we do the review and consultation. The client says, hey, we want to do more work. Doesn't always go that way. Sometimes it does. Says, hey, we want to do some more work. So I communicate with the first company and say, hey, politely, we're on to what you're doing. We don't say it that way, but we understand what you're doing. This lease isn't valid, and we demand a release. So what's the first company want to do? They want to negotiate. They want to get into negotiations. They want to say, hey, maybe we can offer you an increase in royalty percent. Maybe we can offer you more money on a per acre bonus level. Why would they do that? Because if you do not sign the ratification, they essentially have nothing. They have nothing. So they really want you to sign. So you can negotiate, in this example, and we do, with the first company. But you know what? There's still that second company out there. And thankfully, I have a contact with that second company, and we contact them and say, hey, have this lease. Although it still exists and it's still recorded, is no longer a valid lease. I'd like to know if you are interested in making a lease if we get this thing surrendered and released, which we are very confident we will do. And lo and behold, that company is interested. And yes, they will. So now what do? We have two companies both willing to offer something, cash and royalty in terms, addendum terms, in order for you to advance with either company. So the first company that sent the amendment, modification, and ratification in the mail, they're now saying, oh, well, all right, you're on to us. So what do? Just we'll abbreviate this some. They have increased the per acre bonus that they would pay by more than triple. And they have shortened the term of how long the lease would last by half. Oh, and they agreed to increase the royalty percent in your existing lease by 2.5%. So from 12.5 to 15. So again, think about this. In understanding what's going on, triple the cash payment and increase the royalty percentage from 12.5 to 15%, which means that over the lifetime of this lease, you as the landowner will receive 20% more in royalty payments. So the difference between 12.5 to 15% as a royalty payment in your lease actually results in you getting 20% more royalties over the lifetime of the lease. So again, identifying what is going on here. Triple, more than triple the cash payment. Cut the lease term in half, twice as short of a lease. Increase the royalty percent from 12.5% to 15%, which means you as the landowner will get 20% more in royalties over this lease, the lifetime of the lease. Oh, and agree to add language to the addendum that says that you will not be charged deductions. Oh, and then other terms too that we can negotiate. So the first company, who we know is in a spot, because if the client landowner doesn't sign anything, they have nothing. So we need to negotiate and maximize that deal. So then we go to the second company, who doesn't have the lease now, but is the big company that is going to drill. And we say, what can we do there? And we go back and forth and we negotiate two different deals so we can figure out what is the best one for the landowner. And we talk about, hey, landowner, the first company may even be willing to cut you a better deal. Let's say they were willing to give you 16% royalty, where the driller was only willing to give you 15%. Well, why would that be the case? Well, remember, if the first company assigns the lease to the second company, they're going to get 5.5% royalty. If they don't assign it, they get nothing. So they're willing to cut into their 5.5% royalty so they can at least get something. So we can get 2.5% and go from 12.5% to 15% out of the first company. Remember, they have a pot of 5.5% that they're getting. So they give us 2.5%, they keep 3%, or else they get nothing. Well, you know what? Maybe that's too good of a deal for you, first company, because if it's not for us, the landowner side, you get nothing. So maybe that first company is willing to give you a 16% royalty, and they now only have 2% of their 5.5% of overriding royalty. So they ate into their overriding royalty. Remember, let me just make this clear. Your lease was 12.5%. If the first company assigns to the second company your lease, you get 12.5% royalty. The first company gets what's called an overriding royalty interest of 5.5%. If they aren't able to assign it, that first company doesn't get 5.5% royalty. They get nothing. So now we negotiate with the first company to see how much we can get back out of their 5.5% royalty. So maybe that first company says, well, we only want to give you 2.5% out of our 5.5%. We said, well, fine, we'll go with the second company. Well, okay, maybe we can give you, 3%. So you're always looking to maximize these offers and take advantage of your leverage. And you need to be able to identify what was occurring and what will occur, what your leverage is with the first company who wants to assign the deep rights to the second drilling company, and then also what your leverage is with the drilling company. And that's as a result of the review and consultation and going forward, we were able to, again, set up two different types of offers to allow the landowner to have their choice, which, without getting into too specifics, I will say this. We increased the per acre price that the landowner was going to get to sign an amendment, ratification, or a new lease by more than triple to what was offered. We increased the royalty percent that they would have received had they just signed the amendment and ratification. We've increased the royalty percent by over 20%. So they're going to get 20% more royalties over the lifetime of the lease because we identified all of these issues and worked it to the best advantage of the landowner. Not the company, but the landowner. And then we get royalty without deductions, shut-in limitations, and other additional addendum terms. Those are all great benefits that will result in tens and tens and tens of thousands of more dollars, and depending upon production, potentially hundreds of thousands of more dollars. And what's the difference? What could have happened? The landowner could have got the documents in the mail, saw the shiny object of so much money per acre if they signed it, and never realized that they were reviving a lease that was dead and terminated. Didn't realize that they were giving up their ability to negotiate for more money, more royalty percentage, more addendum terms, no deductions. They would have just did the wrong thing, which is pick up the pen. But this person put the pen down, picked up the phone, and called us. And we did the review and consultation, and this has worked out extremely well for the landowner. And this is a specific example. But this type of thing occurs all the time. And like I said, the worst thing that can happen is you have your questions answered, you know you're signing an appropriate document, you're not getting taken advantage of, and you have the information that you need to know from somebody who's working for you. So give us a call, see if I can help you. 570-307-0702. Regardless of your location, give us a call, see if we can help. 570-307-0702. And keep listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Don't forget, you can join me each and every week at this time on this station for All Things Marcellus. Proud to say that I've been doing this weekly radio show since 2010. And I'm not stopping, because we need to get this information out to everybody. As always, the radio show is informational. We want to get you thinking, aware of the issues. Went through today a great example. It was somewhat complex, but a great example of where a lease review and consultation, or a review and consultation, and it was actually of a proposed amendment, modification, and ratification, resulted in the individual making a decision, or first off, rejecting the offer and ultimately getting 3 times as much upfront money, increasing the royalty by a 20% margin, going up from, say, 12.5% to 15%, even though that's only 2.5% as far as numbers go. You know, you look at a lease that says 12.5%, you look at one that says 15%, you say, oh, that person got 2.5% more royalty. Well, what does that translate into? Well, that 2.5% from 12.5% to 15%, that results in 20% more royalty being paid to the landowner. So that 2.5% is a big deal, meaning if you would get $100,000 in royalties, you would now get $120,000. If you were getting $200,000, you would now get, if you had 15%, you would get $240,000 in royalties. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And think about it. You're paying taxes on that. If you paid 20% less tax, you'd probably be pretty happy. So that's a major improvement. Then on top of that, in this case, we were able to eliminate deductions, which are probably, by being conservative, increase the value of that lease by, let's say, around 30% or more. Could be a little less, but I think 30% is conservative. So that is an enormous increase financially. Again, 3 times the bonus, over 3 times, adding 20% by way of additional royalty percentage, and deleting deductions, which is probably around, and everything can fluctuate, but let's be conservative and say a 30% additional increase in royalties over the lifetime of the lease. And then adding in some other protections, shut-in limitations, an entirely different deal than what was sent to the landowner in the mail. And here's what, again, if you listen, this is what drives me crazy and why I scream, please stop signing, do a review and consultation. This is one example that I personally experienced, I was involved in, and we were able to change very substantially to the benefit of the landowner. What concerns me and drives me crazy is I know that the same thing is occurring all the time, but people are not picking up the phone. People are not getting reviews and consultations and getting the information to help them. I can't say, and I won't say, that every single review and consultation that I do, whether it be leasing, pipeline, any other type of an agreement, results in additional money for the client. But I'm going to tell you, I think that probably most of the time it does. And that's not a guarantee. So I don't want it to be a guarantee. I don't want to mislead people ever. But I'm going to tell you that we do these reviews and consultations. And if we don't think that additional work would benefit you, why, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you quite honestly and tell you. But we'll also tell you, hey, here's what your leverage is. And I'll tell you this, my experience, it seems more often than not, we do reviews and consultations, and the landowner ultimately receives more money than what was offered many times. And I mean many times, many, like dozens and dozens and dozens, probably 100 plus times, but many times. Landowners easily get tens of thousands of more dollars because now they're informed. And many times on top of that, landowners get hundreds of thousands of additional dollars in compensation. It happens very often, very often. So again, that's why I say and I don't, preach this, and I don't want to sound like I'm begging for people to call, but I want you to call because I want you to get this information and learn and identify, are you in a position where you may be able to increase this offer by tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? Change the royalty numbers, change the royalty calculation method, and gosh, you owe it to yourself to find out if that's your position. And you can't rely on the company landman who works for the company, not you, the landowner, to give you that information. Think about that. You can't do it. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Join me each and every week at this time on this station. And I want to finish with, I talk about this a lot, and I'm going to keep talking about it. It drives me crazy. Tioga County, these vertical shut-in wells. Again, I want to state for you, anyone listening, or anyone who knows anyone in this situation, I want to hear from these people, and I'm going to do, if you're in this category, a free review and consultation free. And once we do that, you can do whatever you'd like to do. But I want to identify the best cases to bring and talk about bringing these cases to stop these vertical wells that are sitting there by SWEPI primarily, but now they're selling and transferring assets to other companies. I want to stop this, and I want to help you end this. So if you have over 100 acres and you've been shut in for 8 years or more and you're getting shut-in payments, I want to hear from you. I want to do a review and consultation at no cost for these people and talk about, do you have a claim? And if you have a claim, talk about what we could potentially do if you agree. So I want to hear from you. We have to stop this. We're going to be bringing our first action here soon, but I want to hear from more people. So remember, give us a call, reviews and consultations on any and all representation. 570-307-0702. If you're in Tioga, especially, and you have these vertical wells and you're being shut in and you've been getting payments for 8 years or more, call. I want to do a free review and consultation evaluation for you. Call 570-307-0702. And remember, keep listening each and every week to All Things Marcellus at this time on this station with me, Doug Clark. Stop signing bad agreements. Put down the pen, pick up the phone. The landman works for the company, not you, the landowner. Have a great week, everyone. See you next week.